We're in Thailand with Global Blockchain Show, and today I'm with Edgar from GenLayer.
GenLayer, that's right. Hi, thanks for having me.
Tell me about GenLayer.
So GenLayer, it's a new kind of blockchain. Just to set the context, so every blockchain out there right now is basically the same. Some of them are, a little bit faster, a little bit cheaper, different kind of functions. But in terms of what they can do, they're all the same in the sense that they have the same feature set. They're all isolated from the outside world, and they rely on oracles to get any information. And they're programmed in low-level code. So GenLayer breaks those limitations. GenLayer is a new blockchain where smart contracts can connect directly to the internet, fetch any data, and they can execute natural language instructions using large language models. So you can do things like prediction markets without any humans in the loop, where the smart contract itself says go to BBC, fetch some articles, feed them into large language model, figure out who won the election, resolve the prediction market, or there's a magnitude cheaper and faster than using humans to do the same thing.
Mm-hmm. So many questions.
Yeah.
How did you get this idea?
So I've been in the crypto space since 2018. I started Radix DLT and I co-founded Stakehound, which was the first liquid staking product on the market. And then with one of my co-founders, Albert Castellana, who I've been working with since 2018, basically on various projects. We were kind of between projects and looking at all this cool AI stuff that was coming out. This was around the time of GPT-3, GPT-4 coming out. So we were playing with different AI agents and agents that build their own tools and multi-agent systems until we kind of realized that, with our crypto background, that we could do something super interesting with this new technology, which is to make smart contracts intelligent, make them a lot more powerful, and break them out of the current limitations and, enable totally new kinds of applications. It became clear to us, so we started working on the white paper back in December last year, released it in February, and now we're here.
Oh, so it's recent.
It's pretty fresh.
How's
Yes.
been the reception?
It's been really good. We raised the 7.5 million seed round. We announced it back in August, and
Congrats.
yeah, we're building it out. Attracting some developers. It's pretty exciting because they're kind of excited to be able to go beyond all the same applications that can be built in crypto right now and build new stuff and build new applications.
It seems really cool. I mean, other than the prediction markets, what are some other strong use cases?
Yeah, very similar to prediction markets is a parametric insurance, which is insurance that pays out based on whether some event happens or not. Let's say, is it raining in Bangkok? Pay out this insurance contract, regardless of any damage involved. And this has become kind of popular, especially in crypto, because it's a lot easier to do than have a person evaluate all the damage to the property. Is just whether something happens or not. Was the plane late or not? Pay out some insurance contract. The problem with it right now is that they're limited by oracles. You have oracles and they give you these data feeds, but only for very limited types of data, like price feeds and maybe some very simple weather data. But the moment you want to go beyond anything that's simple like that, you need a person basically to resolve it, which makes it uneconomical because people are slow, people are expensive. So GenLayer acts like a universal oracle that can fetch any data from the internet and resolve this kind of insurance contract. So those are both more on the, let's say, things that work today, basically, kind of side. Then you start to get more advanced. GenLayer is basically like, you can think of it as a decentralized court system, a decentralized panel of judges that can resolve all kinds of contracts. For example, we had a guy in a hackathon. So he is working on building a decentralized credit card, and he wanted to have this credit card to have chargebacks, like a real credit card does. If there's a dispute, you can submit a claim, and you can get your money back. So he built a chargeback dispute resolution mechanism using GenLayer, where you submit your evidence, the merchant can submit their evidence, and then the network, these large language models, they basically act like judges, like a court, to actually resolve this kind of complex dispute, which is not something you could do with a traditional smart contract.
Yeah. How do you solve accuracy? It seems like there's a lot of margin for inaccuracy.
Yeah, so this is where our consensus mechanism comes in. We call it optimistic democracy. So it's a new kind of consensus mechanism. So back in December, when we were looking at what can we do, how can we build this system, we realized that, as you point out, a single large language model, let's say ChatGPT, it can be inaccurate, it can make mistakes, it can hallucinate. We can even attack it. If I brute force it, I try different kind of inputs until I get the output I want. So you can't really trust a single one. More fundamentally, it's a subjective probabilistic entity. It has its biases. It's just you wouldn't want to trust a single person to be the ultimate judge, jury, executioner, for your court system. So we realized you need to have another layer on top, which is our consensus mechanism. The way it works is that we have many validators with many different large language models, and our consensus mechanism is able to aggregate their intelligence and by having them check each other's output. So let me walk you through a transaction. So let's say transaction comes in and the contract says this is the prediction market, so we have to go to online, fetch an article and extract who won the election. The way it works for us is that first one of the validators is selected to be the leader, and they execute the transaction and they use their own large language model, which they're completely free to choose. So it can be closed source, open source, all the latest and greatest models. They just have to provide a good answer. And then once they provide their answer, 4 other validators are selected to check what the leader has done. And the way they do that is also using their own large language model. In this case, they go online, also get the answer, and then compare. Okay, did we both get Trump? If so, yes, I'm happy with the leader, or no, I disagree with the leader.
Yeah.
If they disagree, they get a different leader until they can achieve a successful outcome. But then after the first round, to have even more security, so these were just 5 validators. From the outside, let's say you don't like the result, you think it's wrong, just super unlucky or malicious, or anybody else, you can appeal a transaction by submitting a bond, which then brings in twice as many validators. And they check again the current result, see if they need to overturn it, and then potentially get a new leader, get a new output, and improve the result. And you can keep appealing and appealing, escalating until the entire validator set of 1,000 validators is validating. And basically, we find that with this, there's this mathematical theorem called the jury theorem, which says that, it normally talks about people, but it applies here as well, which is that it's kind of like the wisdom of the crowd. So let's say if you have a single validator that's 90% likely to give you a correct answer, if you then add more validators that are not, exactly the same entity, they're a little bit uncorrelated, you start to approach 100% accuracy as close to it as you want, basically by adding more and more validators. So for these kind of tasks, for example, extracting data from a web page using a large language model, that's something that already works super, super well with current days technology. It's more than 90% accuracy for sure, even with a single model. But with this extra mechanism, you can ensure that it really is 100% every time, and you can trust the output. So that's how we solve, I guess, inaccuracy. That's how we tackle it.
I guess the more AI evolves, the more you'll be able to do here. What's something that you have on the roadmap?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So the good thing about our mechanism, because we don't do any proof of inference or any OPML or ZKML, which you might have heard, is that our validators can integrate all the latest and greatest models as they come out, basically instantly, including closed source models. So that's really good. So as you say, as they get smarter and smarter, this tech is going to be more and more powerful. Something that we're looking at that I'm particularly excited about is truly autonomous DAOs, because DAOs today, you call them decentralized autonomous organizations, they're not really all that autonomous and not even that decentralized, I would say, because the problem is the smart contract, the actual rules of the DAO, doesn't actually know about anything that's going on in the DAO, except it knows this guy has X many tokens, so he gets, X votes, and that's it. But a lot of these DAOs, they want to have constitutions, that say, oh, we're a DAO that only invests in privacy tech, right? But really, it's basically like a multi-sig. It's really up to the people in the DAO to actually make sure that this happens and they're not breaking the rules. So on Gen layer, the simplest thing you can do is take the constitution of a DAO, put it inside the smart contract. So any proposal that comes in is evaluated against this constitution. Oh, this is not about privacy tech, automatically rejected. So we cannot even break our own rules. And then as you start to get smarter and go beyond that, you can have the DAO actually implement its own decisions and issue bounties and grant proposals and really start automating all this autonomous infrastructure. But yeah, this is the kind of thing where you want, let's say, the model intelligence also to improve over time so that it can get better and better at this. Even beyond this, I think it's super interesting that you're already seeing out there a lot of multi-modal models, which means they can look not at just text, but images, video, audio. This is also something we'll be able to support not too far after launch, so that then you can have contracts that look not just at text input, but let's say at different documents or at like satellite data for real estate contracts. Is the ship where it needs to be, and then you pay out or don't pay out some contract, or has this building been destroyed in hurricane? So things like that. I think that could be super interesting.
That's really interesting. So you were in crypto for a while, and what has been your exposure to AI? Did you decide to integrate it when it became more popular? Because recently everyone's been talking more
Yeah.
about AI. Tell me
I
the
uh,
story.
I actually, so this was already 10 years ago, but I studied computer science with AI in the University of Edinburgh.
Okay.
And that was just when kind of deep learning was starting to take off a little bit behind the scenes, but it was still super early. Like it didn't have too many mainstream applications, or at least not the kind of that people are aware. So this
Mm-hmm.
was way before also GPT and these large language models. So it was always kind of an interest of mine, even before university. But that's when it kind of became serious.
Mm-hmm.
But then at the time, yeah, I worked on some other startups in education technology, and then 2018 crypto, and I really kind of enjoyed that. But yeah, it became super exciting when GPT-3 and then GPT-4 started coming out. So that's when that kind of rekindled my active interest in AI, and that's when we started exploring, how can we use this tech and ideally, as we found out, combine crypto and AI.
Mm-hmm. You have a co-founder, right?
I have two co-founders. Yeah, one
Okay.
of them, Albert Castellana. So with him, he has also been in crypto for ages. We worked together on multiple projects since 2018. He was the co-founder of NEM before Radix DLT. And
Mm-hmm.
then we have Jose Maria Lago, who is a mathematician, and he's worked at IBM on different AI projects and applying AI in different industries. So he's bringing in a lot of deep, deep AI expertise in sort of the project.
Sounds really good. How did you guys meet?
I met Albert at Radix DLT, so he was the chief product officer, and I was in the beginning an engineer, and then transitioned more towards a product type of role. And yeah, we super enjoyed working together, and now we've done multiple projects, and then we joined Jose Maria Lago for this project. He was working in one of the other. He was a founder of one company that Albert kind of had worked with, and then we joined forces and started exploring different projects we could do together.
That's great. Were you a founder before?
Yes, I've been a founder 3 times and an early stage employee once. Yeah, so even before finishing university, I always kind of knew I was reading online about all these Y Combinator exploits in high school, and I always knew this is super exciting me. So that's something I wanted to do. So
Is this segment something that you've always been interested in, like like I guess accelerating and automating the process of development, I guess?
yeah, I would say I've narrowed in on this over time, and
Mm-hmm.
especially crypto as well. In the beginning, I thought, oh, crypto is like super interesting, but I'm not sure what it's for, and it's kind of an interesting space. But I've always been attracted, I think, most to what you would call product, kind of looking at all this new technology and seeing, okay, what can we actually do? What are some real problems out there for people that we could solve with this new technology? That's something that, yeah, I would say even before university, I was already interested in that, because that's the important thing. We have all this cool technology, but if it doesn't solve somebody's real problem, then what is it all for? So I think that's the most interesting part to me.
So you launched this year. What has been the feedback?
It's been really good. We're seeing some adoption from developers. So I should say we're right now at local DevNet, so you can run this locally and
Okay.
start to build these contracts, and then testnet later this year, mainnet next year,
Okay.
Q2 next year. But yeah, it's been really good reception, in terms of the fundraise. Also, the seed round went pretty well. I've raised a few times, so this was pretty exciting
Who
time to
did
raise.
you? Who's backing?
Our lead investor is North Island Ventures, and we
Okay.
have Node Island Capital, Arrington Capital, Tagblog, a few of the main ones you might know.
Mm-hmm. It's pretty exciting. So next year you launch mainnet
Yes, that's right.
Q2. What's your how has it been like setting up like the strategy to get more clients, I guess?
Yeah, that's something that's always top of my mind. I'd say my North Star, my priority is to get different projects that build on GenLayer and kind of raise money to build on GenLayer. So we're looking to set up different structures and grants and different programs to kind of help them up with that. And it's been good. Yeah, we're starting to scale that up. I personally have been going to a few conferences, and now we're looking at expanding the developer relations team. Also, looking at different segments, seeing where can how can we reach all kinds of different developers, do some hackathons, do different things like that. This project in the hackathon I was mentioning, this credit card chargeback project, we had really good reception. He was initially a little bit scared of the tech. It's all kind of, now you're writing both code in Python and natural language, and what does that all look like? But he had some crypto background, and he was actually able to write the contract part of it in like less than half a day. And then it was 3-day hackathons. He spent the rest of the time working on the front end. So the gen layer part of it turned out to be actually really simple. So that's been really good feedback. We're very happy with the development
Yeah,
environment.
that's really
that we have.
great. What's some of the concerns when you go and talk with the developers? What do they bring up?
Yeah, people are, of course, as you were, worried about, security. Like, how can you use these? Everybody knows that GPT hallucinates, right? And it's
Yeah.
not perfect. So how can you actually build something that's 100% reliable using this kind of tech? So that's, of course, important to people. I think we have a good answer for that. Of course, many developers are not yet super comfortable writing natural language prompts, which is almost, it's like a different kind of task. You have to be very precise with your language. You have to enter almost the mind of a lawyer, and there are some special techniques to how to work with that. So we have to help them a little bit get educated on that front. But I think it's going to be common. Almost, you look at every application, they're starting to use large language models. So developers will start to get used to that.
What do you envision like being built here that would be like a huge success?
My biggest vision for this is that this is an alternative to the traditional legal system, which, I don't want to say anything too bad about the legal system. It's amazing, right? We can have this piece of paper contract that we can say anything, and we have these rules that are enforced between us that it allows us to trust each other and do business with each other. The problem is that, if we have to go and resolve this paper contract, it's going to cost us 10 grand and take a year, right? So it's prohibitive for many use cases. It really works for big companies only, and then takes a long time. So my vision is that this can, the same way smart contracts already do for a very small specific set of use cases like DeFi, instead of taking a year, you have something that resolves instantly and automatically and is self-enforcing. So that's really great. But when you want to do other types of contracts that people do with each other, I don't know, I want to hire you to write me a blog post. It's not something we can do with a smart contract, because a smart contract cannot see the blog post, and more importantly, cannot evaluate what is a good blog post, what is a bad blog post. That's not something you can really describe in low-level code. You need natural language. So you can do this one gen layer with intelligent contracts. So really it becomes like this platform for all kinds of legal agreements that were not possible in a decentralized fashion, and not just for humans. So that's the biggest picture vision, I think, is that you're starting to see all these AI agents coming online, even right now. And I believe on Gnosis chain, the majority of transactions are already conducted by AI agents, not humans. And for example, also Zuckerberg thinks that in the next few years, we'll see that the majority of the entire economic activity in the world is going to be conducted by AI agents, which is also something I believe it makes sense. They will be doing all kinds of tasks for us. Well, these agents, you and I can at least go to a judge. We're legal entities in a way. We're persons. These AI agents are not, so they cannot. Sometimes you need to show up in person in court. Maybe you can put an AI agent in a corporation, kind of make it work. It's not very natural. So the way I see it, this really can become the platform for AI commerce, for all kinds of AI agents to have agreements with each other. Let's say I want to hire a website builder agent, and this website builder agent wants to hire copywriter agent, an image generator agent, and all kinds of agents, and they want to have complex contracts between them. Well, they're going to need something like this. So I think that's the biggest picture vision that I got.
You have like obviously a lot of knowledge within the AI ecosystem. Do you think that that for me, there's a concern that things could go wrong in terms of like all things AI, because if it becomes some, I don't know, from my perspective, like autonomous,
Yeah.
a lot of bad things could happen, and also could be used, for bad things. Do you have any of these concerns? Like, give me, like, from your point of view, what is likely to happen? And this is broad, not
Yeah.
necessarily with your company.
I do have some concerns as well. I think AI safety is an important topic. I think there are ways it could go wrong, especially if it turns out that it's like a single company or a single government that ends up building something that's vastly more powerful than anybody, and they're the only ones running this super intelligence, and then they have a huge advantage over everybody. And that's even before getting into the issues of if it truly becomes autonomous and, I don't know, converts us all into paper clips. I don't know if I'm, fully convinced that this is a likely or possible scenario, but I think it is something we should think about. Of course, the big picture, safety, if truly somebody creates a hostile autonomous AI, then I don't know what we can necessarily do about that. Hopefully, I think the solution is to have many different AIs controlled by many different entities, and even more so create this framework like GenLayer for them to work with each other, and so that you don't end up trusting a single one to make all decisions for you. You actually have this committee of many AIs working together, and they can work with each other and hopefully do commerce with us amongst themselves and work for us, not just convert us all into paper clips. But it's a crazy time to be alive, to be honest. Yeah, nobody I think knows what's going to happen. So
Yeah. Is there anything exciting coming up for GenLayer?
Yeah, we have a testnet coming out end of this year. I mean, you can already start building contracts on your local testnet. So if you go to studio.genlayer.com, it's like a local web interface where you can build these different contracts, like a football. There's some example contracts, and you can already start building, prototyping, getting your application ready for testnet and then mainnet. So those would be the main ones, and then alongside we'll have different kind of programs and events for developers to help them build out their new applications.
Exciting. For everyone watching, how can they find you?
Yeah, you can find me personally on Twitter, or I guess X.com nowadays, at Edgars Nemše, is EDGARSNEMSE. And then you can find also GenLayer on Twitter and on our website, genlayer.com, and then join, of course, our Telegram and our Discord, and those will be the main entry points for everything you want to learn about GenLayer.
Edgar, thank you.
Thank you so much.